Week 1's in the books. I'm Dustin. Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk, and it was a crazy week 1, so obviously plenty to talk about for the week 2 waiver wire. You had underperforming stars. We already got some major injuries. You had the Rams going nuts, the Chiefs beating the Patriots. Lots of stuff going on. I do shoot these videos though before the Monday night game, so this week with 4 teams playing, if there's someone not in there because something happens on Monday night, I shoot them before. I like to get these up Monday night, so just keep that in mind. Post questions in the comments if you got any. Quick shout out to our sponsor for this video, mybookie.ag, most trusted sportsbook on the web. Their motto, you play, you win, you get paid. You gotta like that. Click on the link in the description. Use promo code SMACK. You get up to 100% sign up bonus. So check them out. Let's start with my pickup of the week. Now this isn't necessarily the guy that I think should be added if you could choose from everyone on this list, but it's just kind of the most exciting, the kind of the fun pickup. And this week, I'm going with Cohen, the running back with Chicago. Only on about 15% of leagues right now. The guy was all over the place. He was involved, especially in the passing game. He looked good. Jordan Howard owners, I think you should be just a little bit worried. I don't think Howard's going anywhere, but I don't necessarily think Howard's going to be necessarily a workhorse anymore. Cohen is legit. One thing that was interesting, though, is they were out on the field at the same time a decent amount, so it's going to be interesting to see how this how this all breaks down. But Cohen, PPR leagues and even standard leagues, I think he's fun enough to at least just add to your bench just to see what happens. But he's my pickup of the week. Definitely a fun pickup for heading into week 2. Let's talk about some other running backs. Jonathan Stewart, again, I still think he's getting a little bit disrespected. He's going to get enough touches, and I think he's going to get enough goal lines to be serviceable. He needs to be owned in more than 70% of leagues. Kerwin Williams is a guy I want to talk about. Here's the deal. We don't know exactly the timeline for David Johnson. It's not good. So Johnson owners, I'm sorry. It's not looking good. You probably use your first overall pick to get him. Worst case scenario for you because it's not clear cut who the backup is. They got Ellington. They're talking that they might re-sign Chris Johnson. As of right now, while I'm shooting this video, it looks like Williams is the guy to pick up, but it's just kind of a mess. So it's really just kind of a worst case scenario for Johnson owners. But as of right now, Williams would be the guy that I would pick up, but that could definitely change by the time you got to put your waivers in. So tough blow for his owners. And then Chris Carson I want to talk about too out there with Seattle. Lacey's not good. He does not look good. And at this point, I do think Carson is very interesting. Only on about 20% of leagues. I think Rawls will get a chance to take that job back over once he's 100% healthy, and I do think Rawls could take it over, obviously, if he is able to stay healthy. But Carson looked pretty good. He looked good in the preseason. I think, again, at the very least, he needs to be added to benches until this one gets figured out. But I think he's certainly a high upside guy to add to your bench. Looking at the next group, I want to talk about Jamal Williams. It's very clear that Ty Montgomery is the lead back in Green Bay. But here's the thing. Looking back towards last year when I was watching Montgomery, he just seems like he just kept getting nicked up during games and just was constantly leaving and coming back. And that happened again week 1. I think he's going to have a hard time staying healthy for the whole year. So if you own Montgomery and Williams is available in your league, you might want to pick him up. And then I want to talk about Buck Allen real quick. Looks like he's going to see the biggest bump with the Danny Woodhead injury. My guess is Woodhead's probably going to at least miss a month. So we'll see how that figures out. But Allen did get a lot of touches after Woodhead went down. So he could be someone that could help you for the short term. Let's take a look at some receivers. Corey Coleman I want to talk about. Whenever you have a rookie quarterback, you're not really sure who his favorite targets are going to be, or who his favorite receivers are going to be, where the targets are going to go. But Coleman, I like how they instantly have chemistry. He found the end zone. Only on 65% of leagues. It looks like those two could be really starting to get some chemistry together. Coleman needs to be on in more leagues. Cooper Kupp, big fan of him. I talked about him last week, but even I was surprised at how quickly he got involved in the offense, considering he was kind of banged up. And they also said, Woods is ahead of him in the depth chart. But Kupp looked good, got 6 targets, found the end zone. I think all PPR leagues, he needs to be owned. I think him and Goff are really headed in the right direction in terms of having chemistry and having fantasy value this year. Allen Hurns only owned 10% of leagues. The Robinson injury, All you Allen Robinson owners, I'm sorry, didn't work out again this year. But Hearns puts Hearns back on the map, only on 10% of leagues. He could definitely be serviceable, but it's just tough with Bortles, and you just don't have much confidence in Bortles throwing the ball. But someone's got to catch the ball out there. This, like I said, this just puts Hearns back on the map. And Kenny Golladay, this is interesting. What a debut for the rookie. Had 7 targets, only on 20% of leagues. I do think he will be inconsistent though, so don't go crazy. Now I do kind of rank these people more or less in order of how I would pick them up if they were available in my league. So, this kind of shows him having him 4th on this list. Like, I'm certainly obviously excited about him, but I do think they will be somewhat inconsistent just because there's a lot of mouths to feed out there. But you gotta love his debut. You gotta get excited about him. And if you got room on your bench, certainly a high upside guy. Let's move to the next 4. Danny Amendola, he's owning 50% of leagues, and it was a great week 1 for him, but kind of the same deal. There's just so many mouths to feed out there with New England. Amendola is just going to be hard to trust every week. I mean, in full point PPR leagues, I think he has, kind of a high floor each week, but still, I mean, at this point in his career, we know what Danny Amendola is, and, I'd rather take a gamble on a younger guy that could have, legit wide receiver 1 potential, but still serviceable, still someone to consider. And then Aguilar for Philly, only on 15% of leagues. Very involved in the offense week 1. He looked pretty good. He found the end zone. Maybe all it took was having a legit wide receiver 1 lining up with him to kind of take the pressure off for him to become fantasy relevant. So Aguilar is someone that, again, just for me, just kind of puts him back on the map. Someone that consider picking up. He's only on 15% of leagues. And one last guy I want to talk about is Paul Richardson in Seattle. Looks pretty good. He's owning 20% of leagues. Jermaine Kearse is gone. Kind of opened up the spot for Richardson to get some targets. And they still got Lockett out there. Obviously, they got Baldwin, but it does look like Richardson, I do expect him to be a consistent part of that offense. So let's talk about some quarterbacks next. Alex Smith, here's the deal with that. We got to figure out if the Patriots defense is really that bad or if the Chiefs offense is really that good. It might be kind of a combination of the two, but Alex Smith looked great. He's got a ton of weapons. Hunt obviously looked amazing. Hill looked amazing with the long pass that he caught. I mean, there's some weapons on that offense. There are some pieces. The Chiefs haven't been a high-powered offense since I can remember. So it's kind of weird thinking that they might be, but at this point, you have to at least consider it. And Alex Smith, only on 25% of leagues, he's certainly someone that you got to consider in deeper leagues. And obviously, all 2 quarterback leagues, he should probably already be owned. Jared Goff with the Rams, new head coach Sean McVay, and it looks like he's got them looking ready to go for this season. I mean, it was very impressive what they did week 1. And I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to believe in the Rams. And going back to Cooper Kupp, I think having a receiver like that can really help Goff just have that kind of that safety net guy. It just seems like the Rams are headed in the right direction. We've been saying that for a couple years now, but this might be the year they put it all together. Let's move over to tight end. Certainly some interesting tight ends after week 1. Some big play potential from some of these guys. Austin Hooper, he only had 2 targets, but he did a lot with those 2 targets. He's owning 55% of leagues. The 2 targets scares me in terms of, picking him up as your tight end 1, but he did pretty well with them. He's on that high-powered Falcons offense. Obviously, you got to like that. I think he could have legit tight end 1 potential this year, so I think he's someone, if you're not liking your tight end, he could be a guy to pick up. And then Jesse James. If you've been watching our videos over the last couple years, I'm a big Jesse James fan. And I did take it as a warning sign when they signed McDonald and brought him over. I was like, okay, maybe they're not that confident in James, but at this point, maybe McDonald's not quite up to speed yet, but Jesse James, a huge red zone threat, and he proved that week 1. Any type of standard leagues, I think he goes up even more. I don't expect him to get, any more than maybe 6 to 8 targets in any given week at the high end, but if he's getting those goal line or those red zone targets, he could definitely be a tight end 1 this year. I still am a big fan of Jesse James. And then my defenses, I got 2 of them for you. And one thing I definitely like to look at is over-unders. So on mybookie.ag, I like Oakland going up against the Jets. Oakland is a 13.5 favorite in this game, and the over-under is only 43.5. So you can do the math there and figure out that Oakland is supposed to win this game by a lot, and they aren't supposed to give up many points. So, you know, we saw the Jets, they just don't look that good, and Oakland's D did really well against Tennessee. So I do like Oakland as a pickup and play. And then Tampa Bay going up against Chicago. Their over-under is 43.5, and Tampa's a 6.5 point favorite in that one. So shouldn't be a ton of points going around in that one in terms of Tampa Bay giving up points to Chicago. So that's my Week 2 waiver wire. Hopefully you had a good Week 1. If you got questions, post them down in the comments. Check out all of our other stuff and get into our FanDuel game. Quick shout out to Matty Ice 2241. He won our FanDuel Beat the Experts Week 1. Click on the link in the description. We didn't quite fill it up. We had to open up to the public last week, but we want to fill it up with all of our FST members. So click on the link in the description and join our game.